do you know that? I've known her for 50 years, that's how I know. It's nuts. And nobody else knows anybody. You know, either the prosecutor, the ATF agent, investigator for the.
Did you talk to Jeff? Yeah.
Come on, what?
He'll become a witness if he doesn't want
Yeah,
to.
we're getting back to that.
Okay.
I just got an email from him yesterday. I don't know if he can do anything, to tell you the truth.
He just said he knows the people that are on there and that maybe he could.
I don't think that's good enough.
Jesus.
I don't think it's good enough. But anyway, we'll find out, so. It's just really, so I get paid $50 a day, and Peggy goes down with me, and I gotta take her out to dinner, plus me.
Depending how long this goes, I need to talk to Chris about something, and then I have a meeting with Melissa.
But there's a, your civic duty is like priceless, so I mean, there is a.
I hope not.
It's priceless.
Well, I mean, you know, the fact that
Yeah,
you're
for
doing
months.
that, getting
You
up.
can't put
I
it
mean,
out.
That's
we
where, yeah, I
only
know
really
exactly
need
the
this
point
room
of trying to make.
for
I'm gonna cheer up.
the budget, so once we're done with that, we can move.
I served in the grand jury in Berks County one time for a year and a half.
That's
We
what they
had
have
for a year and a half, and we voted on sending it to 6 months. I was foreman, so I couldn't, and you couldn't mess with 30 people. And the only indictment we handed out in Puxar case.
The who?
Puxar.
Oh, gotcha.
So we indicted him for murder, so that was murder.
Yeah, they could get me for another 6 months. too.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
But it is a bird, you got beer all the time. It's constant.
I'm just gonna tell them, I said, I don't mind doing it through March of next year, but, you know, then I'm out. I'm gonna get a
How many
cert
people, is it 30 or there's
as
5?
23.
Are there then so many alternatives?
There's 16 alternatives.
Yeah, wow.
I don't know what, I've never sold one of those.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be at the hearing, they're supposed to be at every, how do they know, they're supposed to keep up with the case as if you have a case that progresses? Because if 2 or 3 of the regular members go down, they have to substitute, they step in. So they're supposed to be involved with the case.
To the best of my knowledge, they just hold the 23 members over for another 6 months to wrap up the case. And it's nuts. But anyway, on a lighter note, let's call the meeting to order here. Is there any public, do we need to take a roll call to do that?
John Woodward,
Here.
Dave Bausher,
Here.
Fred Levering,
Here.
Bill Jenckes,
Here.
Keith Derr,
Here.
and Greg Portner.
Here.
Great. Is there any public comment relating to this meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on. Long-term planning.
So I will take that one. I reached out to John Buccino. You all had the pleasure of hearing him present probably last year around this time. He and Mark Radcliffe both attended a meeting a couple months into COVID to give an overview on the impact on commercial real estate, and then Mark also spoke about what was happening in West Reading. Fred and I have had conversations. Pre-COVID, one of my concerns, just knowing what the retail industry trends have been and are only continuing to do, is what I'm gonna call our commercial core. So Berkshire Boulevard, Woodland Road, a little bit of Ridgewood, State Hill Road, all the way down to the shops at Wyomissing. When we did the master plan study for Park and Penn, there was brief discussion about looking at that area as well. The overall decision was that was another chunk we should maybe wait until we saw the outcome of the medical school and what impact that had on the Park and Penn neighborhood. So let's wait and do something with that area in the future. Not only retail being impacted by COVID, the office market trend, which pre-COVID was also, there was a start of a push for some workers to go remote, has only continued and intensified. Not all, but some of the buildings over on Berkshire Boulevard are not back to 100% occupancy. I have multiple friends and family members that work at Travelers. They're still not back in the office and don't anticipate coming back anytime soon. And it sounds like even when they do come back, they're going to be allowed some type of flexibility of working from home 2 to 3 days a week. I expect that to be a similar trend with many other office spaces. So my thought is we need to start looking at doing some type of study of that area. Break down, you know, what does the immediate future hold, say 2 to 3 years, and what does the long-term future hold, 5 to 10 years. The other piece to that, the shops at Wyomissing, they're at about 60% occupancy right now. I mean, it's a pretty sad situation over there. I've had conversations with a few people in the real estate industry. Fred and I have talked about this. You know, I personally think that would be a great location for townhomes, possibly an apartment complex, possibly a retirement community. Do it as a mixed-use development, you know, keep some of the components of the retail restaurant, but add to it to give some vibrancy back to that area. I mean, because of its disconnect from the highway, unless there's a destination tenant there that's nowhere else in the county or maybe even the surrounding area, I don't think anybody's gonna go out of their way to find it.
Well, if Starbucks couldn't make it there, you can.
That too. A good piece of commercial real estate news I got this week is 1040 to 1080 Berkshire Boulevard, which is where Pier 1 was. The owner of that property contacted me and they have 2 potential tenants. One would be a pad site development. They'd actually cut off the end of the building where the mattress store is and then build a pad site to meet zoning requirements. The owner sent me a very, very, very preliminary sketch plan that Jim McCarthy and I looked at and just gave some very cursory review comments. But to go back to this, I've invited John Buccino. He again was unfortunately unable to attend today's meeting, but he does plan on attending the October meeting. I wanted to kind of put a bug in everybody's ear to start thinking about it. I've already started a conversation with Colleen Terry about what grants are out there to do a study of this type. There are grants of anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000, which shocked me. I think we spent about $30,000 when we did the master plan study for Park and Penn. So, you know, my hope is we can get some assistance from the state, put together a group of stakeholders, including this committee, that would weigh in on that study and then work through that process similar to what we did with the Park and Penn study.
So, just since Keith is here, how about, are we planning to put in the budget continuation of our lobbyists?
I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, I think it's pretty clear from the last time that when that came up for discussion is that they more than paid for themselves in terms of the amount of revenue they brought in. So
Yeah,
I think it's probably a necessity as opposed to a luxury.
Well, for what they brought in, it would take like 24 years
Right. So I don't
to
know how you,
bring nothing in, and they're still even.
yeah, I don't know how you not continue to.
The other piece of that that's not quantified in grant dollars is Kathy reached out to me last week. I think you're all aware I'm on PAPCO's board of directors, which is the Pennsylvania Association of Building Code Officials. And there's a key piece of legislation that a certain legislator has been trying to push through for multiple years now that impacts how municipalities enforce the building code when using a third-party agency. There was a last-minute addition to a Senate hearing this week on an amendment on a bill that nobody knew about, and I mean, Kathy called me and was basically, drop everything you're doing, like, we need to start calling people, we need to start fighting this. That key insight alone is invaluable.
Right.
I mean, Phyllis didn't say anything, just make sure Phyllis knows that.
She does.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here, so, you know, you and I have seen firsthand what they can accomplish.
and who they know.
Yeah.
As far as that area and so on, I think what Michelle's talking about is absolutely on target, it's important. As a real estate broker, my view is that we have to encourage property owners to keep their places in first-class condition. They can't let anything start to slide, as we've seen kind of at the shops around us. Before that area is slammed with vacancies, there will be other areas that will be cannibalized. And other areas are gonna have a problem keeping up, and it will become more concentrated. We gotta make sure it's concentrated in one site. Very selfishly, I don't want anybody in the county to be hurt, but that's the reality. Is that there are a lot of areas that are kind of marginal or whatever. Those offices, retail things gravitate over here, just as we saw with, Burlington Coat.
Probably anywhere you have brick and mortar retail.
And as far as the office thing is concerned, there's no question that this remote thing is going to continue. But ones that feel they need to have a physical presence have been tending to look at more space in order to have their distancing, etc. I think we're going to be less affected than many other areas, but we got to make sure that we keep the lure out there as being this is the place to be.
I don't know.
That's why we're all here.
I don't know if anybody read the article in the Reading Eagle, Sunday or Monday, about the study the city of Reading's doing for their downtown center. One of the key recommendations of their analyst was do not create office space. There's no need for it. So, I mean, if you look at the zoning over there, excuse me, it's typically C2 and I2. So commercial is pretty self-explanatory. Yes, you could do office, but you could do your retail, your restaurant, anything that fits within there. But your I2 is actually office park. And if you look at, primarily Ridgewood, you have BTI in there, which they had reached out to me a few months ago about a CDL program that they're starting. I think they're gonna be fine in terms of expanding their programs, and they're kind of hitting a niche market with what's going on with pushback of not everybody needs to go to college. There's other ways to get a good career, but a lot of what remains over there, is the Carlino office park. So what does the future of that look like? Maybe not in 5 years, but in 10 to 15, and are we keeping up with the zoning to make sure whatever's coming next will fit?
Those BTI guys have been here before, and I was impressed with them, to tell you the truth, and, they know more about what they're doing than I do, so let's just help them if we can.
That would be my intent.
And Michelle is gonna she's gonna talk about it, she's going to have an opportunity to speak to the Woodward commercial group. When is that, next week?
Next Thursday?
Next Thursday, and I'm gonna be there as well, and I think part of the message is to make sure that those people who are literally on the front lines understand that if you come up with a good idea, don't hesitate to ask, that we have a very open mind.
I'll touch on my talking points when I get to it, but I mean, yes, the request of that association when they reached out to me and asked me to do this presentation was to speak about the borough's economic goals and also our overall approval process. So when I get to the approval process slide, I'll explain what I'm gonna say there.
The other thing that concerns me somewhat is that area, as we rightfully know, is in the Wilson School District, not the Wyomissing School District.
I'm trying to keep profanity at a minimum.
Well, I think we gotta reinitiate some conversations with Wilson. We just gotta get on the same page.
I actually have an update on that later.
Okay.
Are you still having your
Yes.
joint
Yeah.
meetings?
Well, Town and Gown, I need this, we had one at the end of June,
Okay.
but we're about due for another one. But they're now
That's it.
part of that local business owner stakeholders meeting, so I'll kind of give an update on them too.
Is PTA talking about a CDL program on that campus?
Yes,
Do they have space or something like that?
they're saying they can use the parking lot.
Jeez.
They have a facility up on Route 183 where the old Lincoln restaurant was as well. That's theirs.
About a mile
However,
from
they
our
can't,
road.
they can't approve drivers anymore. They can only put them through the course into Allentown, I believe. Because I think they lost their license to, there's something going on and they lost their license, so they can't sign off on the license anymore. Yeah, so they can train the guys and take the trucks and stuff out, but they have to go to Allentown and take the test, I think.
That's not convenient.
Yeah, there was, I don't know whether it was BTI, but it was in the paper a few weeks ago that they caught somebody who was actually selling licenses.
Okay.
And,
From China.
no, unfortunately, it was a local firm, but I think it was out up on 222 somewhere.
Yeah, so they can only go so far with them, so if that's a satellite operation, I mean, you know, are they gonna have a lot of truck traffic? I mean, obviously they have,
No, pretty much they stay on site. I got the impression from the preliminary conversation, it's the very initial CDL training of, here's a truck in a parking lot before you take it out on the road. Let's
Yeah.
kind of work within this small confined area.
I mean, that spot they have on 183 is terrible.
Yeah, it is.
To pull out there.
Right
the
at the top of the
access is
hill.
hard. Yeah, it's, but, so they test they put them through the course, but they have to go elsewhere to take their.
Looking at Lancashire or Allentown as a regional test center.
I don't mind their having a truck there for people to look over and so forth, but certainly, I'm not in favor of any kind of a course over here.
No, agreed, but I mean, keep in mind, a hop, skip, and a jump away from there is all the loading docks for Walmart and Runners, so.
Yeah.
So is anybody willing to make a motion to recommend council authorize administrative staff, which would effectively be me, working through the process to apply for grant funding for some type of planning study for that area?
That brings money in, I'll make them push.
Second.
And at what cost?
Initially, I mean, we need to look through the grant programs and see what's out there. I would expect most planning grants are through DCED, which typically waives the municipal match, so the hope is none.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a comment, there wouldn't be any expense incurred by the borough until there was a grant offered, and then you accept the grant, and then you make a financial commitment if there's any match. So at this point, you're not committing other funds.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
The final follow-up to that, I mentioned this at workshop the other day. There's a RACP authorization that municipalities can put in for, so before you formally submit for RACP, there's an authorization that goes through the Senate committees to approve that effectively gives you higher status when you do put in a formal grant submission for RACP. So based off some conversations I had with the County Redevelopment Authority and the county's Economic Development Director, Pam Shupp, I'm working with Colleen to put in a $10 million authorization that's gonna be a blanket redevelopment request. So we could use it for acquisition, demolition, environmental remediation, and redevelopment for any commercial property if the need arises.
Do we need any sort of recommendation from this committee to finance to continue the consultants?
I don't think it would be a bad idea.
Well, I'll make that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, they're worth their weight in gold, absolutely, as far as I'm concerned. And I've seen firsthand. I said it before, Michelle and I took a 2.5-hour round trip up to Harrisburg to have a 20-minute meeting with whoever. And we got everything
knew everyone.
She knew everyone, all the way down the halls of the Capitol building. And we had to stop every 10 steps because she knew everybody. And when you get the doors open, that's 90% of
Yep.
the solution. So anyway, do you want to go on to your Realtor's presentation?
Sure, so, I mean, again, I was asked to give this presentation next week for the Reading Park Association of Realtors. Key points they asked me to present on are the borough's overall economic development goals, and then kind of walk through the approval process. So I'm not gonna give you my full dog and pony show, but, I mean, an overview is talk about projects that happened in the past 5 years, zoning amendments we made to encourage redevelopment or assist with projects we were becoming aware of, future areas of study, the approval process, and then other items of interest. So this is not the full-blown list, but these to me were the kind of the highlight reel of what has been approved, reported plans, projects, you know, that are either in the process of completion or are now done within the past 5 years. I wanted to give them some visuals. And the point I'm gonna make with these 2 slides, because I think we all saw this firsthand, these were the pretty renderings Equus gave us very early on. Everybody can go out there and see what's there now. The fact that I think what you see in person is almost even better than what is shown in these artistic renderings speaks volumes to who Equus is and what they bring to the table. Oops, I went too fast. The Met, Teleflex, College of Medicine, the roundabout, the original concept plan for 4th Street. This is a slide that's gonna talk about the redevelopment area mixed use incentive overlay we adopted. That was one of the recommendations coming out of the master plan study. As part of that, we also rezoned some of the underlying zoning districts to make the current existing uses conform to the zoning district they were located in. The amendment that we recently adopted to the original overlay district to allow the redevelopment of the Crown Plaza property. That's the revised zoning map that highlights both the underlying changes and then those 3 new redevelopment districts. Just gonna give them the example of the condos on Van Reed, that sketch plan that came in that, you know, was the first project submitted under the new overlay. Future areas of study, a lot of what we just talked about. Just give them a visual of the area. I know one of the questions, because I'm asked the question all the time, what's going on with the Berkshire Mall? John and I know you.
My favorite subject.
I know you all are too extremely frustrated with the lack of really anything over there.
Attention.
I've repeatedly been told and had confirmed that what was the Sears portion of the or of the overall building and the out parcel are under contract, which baffles me because there's no formal approved subdivision plan, or they've not condoed the property. So I don't understand how you sell a quarter of a property when you legally can't do so.
Well, they say it's under contract to sell as opposed to occupy.
Yes. And I know who the potential buyer is.
Is it scary?
Yes.
About a Ford dealership.
The lack of an answer.
No.
Oh,
He is still.
Savage wants, yes,
Yeah, he wants that.
I know he does.
He wants another location banned
Savage.
someplace.
The problem
He's
is,
savage.
he does not wanna lease from who the proposed buyer would be.
Speaking real quick though, I have to, give due diligence where it's, for credit. There's an improvement where the mobile station was. There's a nice freshly painted drop box for clothing and shoes and all that kind of
I
crap.
was gonna say,
That was just put up
I
there.
drive past her like 20 times a day. I don't remember seeing an improvement.
Well, that's the improvement I saw
Yeah,
this
okay,
week.
all right.
But the leads down that I asked them to, I'll give them that.
Was I a little
They have to have
sarcastic?
a permit
Are
for
they
that?
allowed to do that? They just
No.
drop a box there?
We've never regulated, they're all over. And they're all over to the extent that sometimes the property owner doesn't know they're showing up and calls me like, did you know about this and can I remove it? I'm like, it's your property. You
Oh,
can-"
is that, yeah, versus a dumpster, when they drop one of the big things, if you remodeling or something, you need a permit for that.
Yes.
But if you need a permit if it's in your driveway?
Yes.
Oh, well, what's the difference between that and a clothing drop box? I don't know, I just,
That drop box is typically much smaller and going in like
Like I
a,
said, it is freshly painted though, unlike the mobile station.
The problem with those drop boxes is people don't throw it in there. They
That's
just
right.
they're around.
Yeah, that's gonna-
Yeah.
Throw the garbage bags full
you
of
drive up
shoes.
and drop it off.
Yeah.
Or when it fills up.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
gonna turn into a.
I mean, maybe we should consider that someday.
we can talk about that. So to the approval process, I'm gonna make the point, I should have started with, the overreaching point of this entire presentation is the borough's open for business. We are willing to work with you, we, welcome new development, redevelopment. So this kind of walks them step by step through, okay, I have a great project, where do I go, what do I do? I'm typically always the first point of contact, depending on whether or not land development is required, which this slide is about. It walks them through the steps. I'll make the point about how we had joint planning commission borough council meetings, especially for the VF North project for Teleflex. That in, very specific key cases, borough council has also been willing to give a letter of recommendation to the zoning hearing board. And then as you can see from the next slide, when land development is not required, the approval process is much simpler. It basically boils down to, do you need a building permit? If you don't, this is the process. If you do, that's the process. And then other items of interest, the potential widening of State Hill Road will be, I think, a key game changer for that area. We just discussed earlier as well. I've had follow-up conversations with the engineer that's contracted by PennDOT to do the design analysis, and they do expect to have that completed by the end of this year, at which point they would then come back with those different designs to review for which one makes the most sense. I know one of their initial concerns is the amount of right-of-way they would potentially have to take on both sides of the road, not just to widen, but to accommodate bikes and pedestrians. So there's been some back and forth about how that could potentially impact a few properties. Obviously, the return of passenger rail service would be a game changer, not just for the borough, but for the entire county. I've had recent conversations with Equus that Tower Health has released Equus of their rights to have offer of first refusal on the island, aka the boiler house. So Equus is back to looking at that site and determining what, if anything, they can do with it. And I talked to the owner of 220 North Park Road, which is the entire complex that makes up where Core Fitness was, Building 7 Yoga's back there, Tower Health's leasing some warehouse space. The building I always refer to as the building where restaurants go to die, it was, it was Stella,
True.
yeah, nothing's ever made it in there.
It's freezing at that point.
So that is under contract with settlement anticipated early 2022, long-term redevelopment plan for that, and based off of John Buccino actually represents the current owner, Stephen Mitnick, Magellan Real Estate. John indicated the buyer intends to not rush into redevelopment. He wants to carefully examine the market, see what the area needs, and take his time to do it right. So I mean, that's kind of the nutshell of my presentation. The reason I wanted to show it to this committee was if anybody has any suggestions for anything you think I missed, any key points you want me to touch on, please let me know. I told the group that I would have the final version of this over to them by next Tuesday, just so they have time to do whatever they need to do.
So what we got in an email, that's not the final version?
This
This,
is unless you wanna give me,
no, I thought it was great.
The list of the fairly recent projects, here, how do you know, I was gonna ask you about that.
it was the second slide.
John likes to cite the total dollar value, what is it?
Whew, I mean, I say just between 4th Street, VF North, and VF proper, you're looking at close to $250 million. So if you add in the rest of these, the Met, the villas, Belmont, the hotel, Stratix, Mall West, Berkshire Square, probably easily another 100 million. So, I was
would
shooting
think
low.
so. Yeah, I would think so.
So close to maybe $500 million.
Pretty impressive.
So Chris, you've said before, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there are municipalities you represent that don't want development, is that true?
Yeah.
For what reason?
Oh.
Yeah, they like to preserve the farmlands.
They
Well,
like
there's
their,
there's a number of different agendas. One is the agricultural thing. Another is, developers in that location only want residential, and the leaders of the community don't want any people coming and going to school in their community, because of the tax income. And some people just don't like change.
Bethel Township just
it's
turned down
also
some
to some
big
extent
development
would
out
increase crime.
Yep.
Crime potential.
Well, 78.
You know,
Because
so-
the neighbors.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Along with the school is, police, utilities, all the things that go with the development that can create economic, cost to the whole community.
That's a hard work.
Mhm.
Michelle, I think one thing that is important to include in your presentation is what George Haynes had said, that, we as a borough have always worked very closely and interacted with our neighboring
Mhm.
municipalities, and we continue to do so. But I think it's important to reiterate what George Haynes had said, that never in his life, experience has he's seen two municipalities working together as Wyomissing and West Reading did to create the knitting mills. He said every time he's done that, there's always been problems when there's been more than one municipality.
Well, and I could expand further on that. I mean, West Riding, Wyomissing, Springtown, and Sinking Spring have a joint comprehensive plan that we just updated in 2018. I mean, that's something post-COVID I think we need to at least get back on track with. We were meeting maybe twice a year, 4 times a year, after that plan was readopted. But I have contacts at those municipalities, whether we have a public works question, I mean, normally Jim's the contact on that, but whether it's economic development, zoning, engineering, just, hey, what's going on with this? There's great communication that flows amongst those 4 municipalities. And also the city, other surrounding municipalities. I think, Fred, you were on that Smart Alliance meeting yesterday. Mark Radcliffe and, now I'm totally blanking on his name, the council president for West Reading. Jack. Yes. Jack and Mark gave a presentation on, kind of what's going on in West Reading, and they also made the point that, there's great communication amongst the 2 municipalities, and West Reading does not view the city of Reading or Wyomissing as a competitor, but more of an ally. And if there's something that a tenant or business owner is interested in West Reading but can't find suitable space, they've shown those people 2 sites in Wyomissing or the city of Reading, like, hey, it's not gonna work here, but you should consider this instead.
Well, I bring that up because recently it's been brought to my attention that people are saying that we don't play well with others. And I'm there,
That's not
what?
true.
Well, I
According-
totally agree, but
According to
it's,
who?
I don't want to say, but
Okay.
it's out there. And I said, well, obviously that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Because we play
I'm on
very
the
well.
West
with
Reading
others.
Economic Development Committee.
I know,
And we
I
talk
know.
all the time.
I just,
Every month.
I made the comment, I said, look, it's getting close to November, you're gonna hear a lot of crap, that's not true. So,
And
you
how
know,
about,
but the bad thing is, they make these types of accusations against us, and it hurts our development, or can put a hold on stuff until we can you know,
Not to any
Are
developers
you
that know
feeling
us.
search, should I come over and give you a
you're
hug?
damn right.
I mean,
That's
if it
not,
helps,
that should be in the minutes, I don't
if it helps, Bill, that's where I think the list and what we've accomplished in the past 5 years speaks volumes.
I agree, I totally agree.
So Michelle, you know, I got the email the other day from you about what is George Haynes' involvement over there with the existing businesses?
You mean Teleflex and also the knitting mills?
Yeah.
Again, this may come as a shock to some in this room, Jack Mankey is no longer with Equus. He was.
He was a good guy.
Yes, he is a good guy.
He's
he,
a good guy.
what?
What did you say is no longer there?
Jack Mankey.
Really?
Literally
He's a
2 hours
facilities guy.
after your tour
Yeah.
ended.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it was a great guy.
That's what I was shocked when I found out because I'm like, wait a second, I just set up a tour for Dave with him like 2 hours ago. So Jack Mankey is no longer with Equus. George is temporarily stepping in. Jack effectively acted as their on-site property manager, so both for the knitting mills and Ducom and Teleflex. He was the point person either between the tenants and the landscapers, site work, anything like that that was being done. He was also working with McCarthy on closing out some of the escrow accounts. So George is temporarily stepping in to fill that hole. They have a young new associate that's going to be taking the role long term, but for now it will be George since he's most familiar with the project. Kevin Flannery's still around too in terms of tenant
I
acquisition.
thought Kevin was gonna wrap it up.
In terms of retiring,
Yeah.
He's having too much fun.
he and I had a conversation about that not too long ago. He would love to stay home and cut his shrubbery all week, is what he said. It's very meditative, but he doesn't know
We
that.
have shrubbery in my house.
He doesn't know that after a week of that he would be fulfilled. So
You need something.
I know the
to do.
feeling.
You need something to do, John, you can't stop.
he's
Give
not
him my
going
address,
anywhere.
you come over.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But my hope is, I mean, again, I continue to keep Equus in the loop. Potential properties for redevelopment, things I think they might be interested in, and that's not just here. I gave them Mike Hart, who is Sinking Springs Borough Manager, his contact information. I mean, their Boss 2020 plan, some of the things that they're working on. There's
2030?
yeah, well, there's sites out there I think they might benefit from. So.
Well, I think we've talked about it before. George got a lot of pushback from his board when he said they were coming to Reading. He was wanted to come to Reading. His board said, "Are you crazy?" Well, I don't think he's so crazy anymore.
No.
So, anyway. All right.
Just on the one thing, final thing, I guess presentations, and since we're talking about presentations, I would just like to compliment the mayor and Mr. Woodward on the great presentation that they did for the First County Commissioners meeting, which was held at the library. Both professional, informative, and
Factual.
and factual, absolutely. And what really came out of it is the commissioners consistently and on more than one occasion, extended kudos to this borough for our hard work and efforts. And I would like that in the minutes that they did a great presentation.
I sent George and Kevin a recording of that meeting actually, because I was like, were your ears ringing last night? You were mentioned, and I mean, the point I was trying to make to them, I personally feel it's the highest compliment when you are being touted at a public meeting you're not even present at. I mean, those compliments from the commissioners were not being given because Kevin and George were sitting in the audience. They were truly sincere about what a great developer Equus was, is, and will continue to be. So they very much appreciated that.
Well, it was a miracle.
Yeah,
So,
the stars aligned.
Okay. Want to go on to business owners meeting?
So I continue to have meetings roughly every other month with Eric Shippers from Penn National, Steve Karsten, Frank Heidish from Teleflex, Jacob Stein from Boscov's, Chris Kay from I'm Able, and Pete Rowley from Tompkins Biz to talk about employee attraction and retention, public-private partnership on some recreation possibilities. I invited Christine Schlossman, who's the business manager for Wilson School District, Jeff Simcox, who's their facilities manager, and Mark, they're from Wilson School District, and Mark Boyer from the Wyomissing School District. He's effectively the business manager for Wyomissing, to attend the September 16th meeting. We kind of had an overview of concerns really of the school districts in terms of, properties that continue to appeal their reassessment. Key point there being the Berkshire Mall. Their assessment was recently dropped from 28 million down to 14 million, and now it sounds like they're going to be re-appealing that to further lower it. One of the requests that was made to the school districts, that stakeholders group is looking at the Meet Greater Reading website, which if you're not familiar with, I can pull it up, but that seems to be the key website that these businesses are sharing with potential employees when those potential employees ask questions like, well, what do I need to know? Like, what are your neighborhoods? What are fun things to do? What does this area even have to offer? So in looking over that with the group, one thing we noticed was missing is school district information, which we all felt is a key component, especially for maybe younger professionals that have either young children or looking to start a family. That's information they would definitely want to see. So I'm working with Aaron Gantz from the GRCA. Both school districts have offered to provide a student intern that can work with the GRCA to add information to the website. We also talked about future internship programs between these businesses or other borough businesses and the school districts. If there's specific interest identified by students they want to get involved in. And the other piece to this was talk about forming a stakeholders group to look at a borough-owned location to install a pump track that would be fully paid for by private donors. So we talked about that at Rec Board the other night. Rec Board is in favor of continuing and having those stakeholders conversations continue. I met with Jacob Stein from Boscov's on Monday morning. His suggestion was himself, Eric Shippers, John Picaris, who's one of the coaches for the Wyomissing area mountain bike team, because a pump track is something they would definitely get use out of. Maybe rolling in one or two of the students that are on that team, and then potentially maybe a member of the rec board, a member of council, and anybody else who expresses interest. So as that next meeting is set up, I will keep you all informed.
Okay,
Where is the malls, but, I thought they had some, anchor stores one time.
They did until Boss House nixed them. They weren't anchor stores, they were pad sites in front of Boss House.
I thought, what's his name from, it said, they had, somebody lined up for Bonton and Sears.
that's
So
not
what?
my understanding.
No.
We met with them last summer at the pavilion at the Happy Hollow. Their attorney said they want to fill up the two anchors.
Right.
And then fill in the gaps.
But they never identified specific anchors. They gave a,
Well, we only had 3 anchors and one of them's occupied.
no, I mean, they didn't specify anchors in terms of final end users. They gave a bunch of examples of, national potential tenants,
Right,
but not,
right,
we
right.
actually have a deal or working on a deal with anyone specific. And then that quickly changed to, oh, and now we have a pad site plan for the State Hill Road side of the property.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I think at one point though, when they were pitching the idea of subdividing the anchor stores off, that they did, rather broadly, did have some users.
That's
But-
what I thought, Fred.
But not specific.
Yes.
My recollection is the same as Michelle said, it was examples they dealt with in other locations.
they gave an example of like a retail user, an educational user, you know, we've done this here, we've done that there.
Okay. How about, Wildways?
So I think everybody's aware of this by now, but just in case you're not, there's a free community bike ride scheduled for next Saturday, October 9th, starting at the intersection of 8th and Knitting Mills Way to celebrate the completion of the Wildways route. Immediately after that, Sly Fox is holding Fox Fest, which is also a free community event with live music. I think the bands are scheduled to play at 12, 3, and maybe 5 or 6. The ride is open to everyone and anyone, all ages, all abilities. Chris Kay from the I Maple Foundation is going to lead the 5-mile ride, which is focused more towards kids. That's gonna be held mainly on residential streets and the parklands. I think they're gonna go out Hill Avenue, cross Penn Avenue, and then go into the parklands and come back. I or Eric Shippers will be leading 10-mile route, which is gonna traverse Wyomissing and West Riding. Both rides are gonna have people at the front, people at the back, so nobody gets separated, nobody gets lost.
That will be timed.
No, they will not be timed. They will not be timed at all.
Okay.
And West Riding has also posted it on their website, the West Riding's Main Street through Mark Radcliffe. I know he shared the information, Sly Fox has put it out, and the businesses have put it out to all of their employees as well. And I plan on giving a kudos at the beginning when everybody's they're waiting to take off, as to thank you to, you know, that whole list of corporate sponsors I have that donated private funds for the long-term maintenance of the Wildways Road.
So Michelle, some of my neighbors don't understand why those shallows are on the road. And I said, you'll figure it out in 10 years. But what should I tell them?
Tell them to go on the borough's website. Well, this is also gonna be in the newsletter that's getting mailed out in the very near future. But I created a whole bike route FAQ section to answer questions like that. You know, the first one being, what is that? Why are they there? What does this mean?
Now I know. I'll read it when I get home.
Okay, I can send you the link to it too. But Melissa did a great job with the fall newsletter, and this FAQ section is gonna be in there. So.
That's where I learned what were those things in the roads, faded. That you see all over the place.
And I did have, I'm sure you all know, criminal investigator Kevin Quinner, he's a big cyclist. Beth Cole from Chris's office is a big cyclist, so I had both an attorney and a police officer review this for legality.
Great, thank you. Okay, how about old business? I got some old business.
Don't look at me.
Not that we need to act on anything. So, one of my friends around the table here said that George from Willoughby's wants to do something there and buy the bank property. What do we know about that?
I know that I've had multiple conversations with him and a potential contractor, and that nothing formally has been submitted.
Well, we need to know. How about,
Customers, customers building, which building?
No, Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
Because I thought there was another one where he would have eventually left the area being bought out, you know, but. So there's a couple-
Oh, there were,
I can't believe George Haynes didn't buy.
he tried
They made him
multiple
an
times.
offer, and it was about half of what George Zeppos wants.
Right.
So that can happen also if the right thing comes along, right?
Yeah, and keep in mind, when we put the overlays in place, we had potentially included those two parcels, not knowing what was gonna happen to them.
And what do we know about the museum?
I know I told them the answer to their request about the parklands was no. It sounds like are potentially exploring options. Kevin Flannery is working with John Smith. But Kevin definitely sees there's a battle with the school district if the running school district. If,
Been going on for 30 years.
yeah,
At least.
Yeah. So, anyway. The museum, I used to be chair of the museum board, they gotta get out of there. If the school district doesn't bend, you know, if they get out of there, the museum, then the school district has a useless piece of property.
And it would be useless,
Yeah.
that location.
But anyway, that's another discussion, could take hours, but that's all I have. Anybody else have any old business? New business? Okay.
I-
Go ahead.
I was contacted,
well, we need a motion to amend the
by
agenda.
some,
Fred, we need a motion to amend the agenda first.
oh,
We're not gonna take action, are we?
Doesn't matter, it's still not on the agenda.
even to discuss it.
Well, but tell us what you.
I was contacted by a film producer that is apparently involved with that. Ken Burns has done all sorts of documentaries very well. And they're proposing some sort of a film that has to do with some celebrities and where they grew up.
Oh, yeah.
So, a connection is Taylor Swift, and they contacted me, and I have not yet responded to them, but I will, because I'm polite. I can't say I'm overly enthusiastic, because, you know, she's a wonderful talent and has had tremendous success, but really doesn't have any deep, local connections. I mean, I don't know if she's ever been back, but other than some years ago, I was contacted by some people that were dead set on renaming Brandy Boulevard after her. That's where she grew up or something. I politely declined
Is she
that.
like Martin Luther King or something?
Well, in any event, that's what they wanted to
There'll
do.
be a library.
In this case, they apparently are looking for exploring this along with other, I think they were mainly musical people, celebrities. Are we all interested in such a thing?
Now you're gonna discuss it if you ask for it.
I'll make a motion, we discuss this,
Motion to amend the agenda first.
or put it on the agenda.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Now you need public comment.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
All those in favor, yeah. Is there any public comment? Well, you know, she's been to my house 50 times. She and my younger, or my older daughter were friends. And one day, not that this is relevant to anything, but, you know, her parents came to pick her up at our house. Mother playing in the basement, but she left in 7th grade. So they came in, having a glass of wine. Scott Swift said to me, where do you go to school? Where do you go to college? University of Delaware. I said, well, I went to the University of Delaware. What year did you graduate? 1974. That's the year I graduated. So I knew there were 8,000 people there. I didn't know them. But anyway, so I think, in my opinion, and it's just one of many here, anything that could be good for the borough is a good thing. And if they want to do something about Taylor Swift, let them do it, open the door. And I don't know what they have in mind, if we have any power to censor stuff or whatever, which we probably don't, but, yeah,
So she left the area when she was in 7th grade?
correct.
Now, she still stays in touch, I mean, she discreetly flies in and out of
Yeah,
here.
she does.
She's got a lot of
They had events in
close
Woodward.
friends here already.
She was
Yeah.
at Ben
Ben is,
She has.
but the, you know, I think this is something, you know, all of these people, they all have their own PR departments, you know. I would say that's something that's gotta be discussed with Scott first.
The only thing I would be concerned with is if she did leave, I mean, she hasn't really made a a lot of effort to stay connected to the area publicly. And it's not like she goes out and she says, I had a great childhood growing up in Wyomissing. They moved, they left. I would just be concerned that maybe there's not necessarily good things she might say. That would be.
I knew her dad's son, and
Yeah.
I don't think.
I've heard positive things in
Now,
she said about the
now
area.
she did,
Jody, what did you say?
I've heard that she said positive things about the area.
yeah, now she did about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, donate 50,000
Right.
to the Reading, library, public library.
I mean, there's a silly story that she grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Wyomissing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Not
bullshit.
aware of having any Christmas tree farms here, but,
There are pine trees in the backyard.
There are pine trees in that backyard, but,
I'll get back to them.
we're all right.
In the past, when we've had filming activities, it's been a long time, 10 years ago, I remember there was some kind of filming activity, and I know there was requests to close some streets for a period of time so that the film crew could occupy the street, and I know the borough cooperated with that effort at that time. That would be hypothetically, if something like this were initiated, the borough could become involved in terms of things like street closures for filming and things.
I can't believe that it would be like such a big part of the piece that it, that it would take, they would need much time and that.
Yeah, probably be 30 seconds or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
All right, I'll get
I don't see what harm could come of it. Oh, I disagree.
No, I'm both, yeah.
except that I endorsed the idea of renaming Green.
Well, those Hills people, who cares about them?
Yeah.
I'm only saying that
We've
'cause
known
that's
that
where
for quite
Fred
some
grew
time.
up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you are kidding.
That is in the minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, but I fixed that when I got the merge into this thing.
That's true. So, anyway, is there anything else? Meeting's adjourned, thank you.
Oh.
There you go.